Have you ever stopped to think about how a single whisper can grow into an unstoppable storm, pulling millions into its wake and reshaping a person's entire reputation? Well, get ready, because what you're about to discover goes far beyond idle celebrity chatter. This is the tangled tale of Meghan Markle, her pregnancies, the explosive rumors linked to her ex-husband, and a relentless wave of theories that just won't fade, no matter how many times they're debunked. If you believe you already know every detail about Harry and Meghan, it might be time to look again. Because this story exposes the blurry, shifting boundary between fact and fiction, and how sometimes that boundary vanishes altogether. It all started with one claim that set the internet ablaze. According to viral posts that zipped through social media faster than anyone could fact-check them, Meghan's former husband Trevor Engelson had allegedly shared a revelation too astonishing to ignore. He was said to have confided that during their marriage, Meghan underwent a hysterectomy, a procedure that would have left her unable to carry children. It was a claim no one had ever heard before, and no established outlet had ever verified. But in an era where a single post can trigger an avalanche of speculation, none of that seemed to matter. Screenshots alone were enough to make the rumor explode. What made this rumor so magnetic was how perfectly it fit into the narrative people already wanted to believe. To her harshest critics, Meghan was always seen as a calculating figure, someone capable of charming royalty and bending tradition to suit her ambitions. So when someone hinted she had pulled off an even bigger scheme, pretending to be pregnant, it was irresistible. People didn't stop to ask if there was any credible evidence. They didn't question why Trevor had never publicly confirmed the story himself. They just decided it was too sensational to dismiss. But here's something crucial to understand right from the start. No credible proof has ever surfaced to support this claim. No formal interviews. No legal filings. Not even a verified statement from Trevor himself. Just layers of secondhand gossip echoing through countless blogs and message boards. Even so, this hysterectomy tale embedded itself in headlines and thumbnail teasers across YouTube, fueling the notion that Meghan's pregnancies were an elaborate performance fit for the big screen. While that allegation was gaining traction, other conspiracies were simmering, and soon they all merged into a single narrative. Meghan was never pregnant at all. This theory had been gaining momentum since 2018, when Meghan and Harry first revealed they were expecting their son, Archie. Almost immediately, self-appointed investigators began picking apart every piece of footage and every photograph of Meghan's growing belly. They scrutinized how her bump looked in different dresses. They claimed it appeared to bend strangely when she leaned over. They compared her silhouette to other royal mothers and declared it too inconsistent, sometimes too round, sometimes too flat. Entire online communities sprang up with a shared mission: to prove Meghan was wearing a moon bump, a prop designed to fool the world. One incident that conspiracy theorists latched on to happened at a charity engagement in early 2019. Meghan wore a vivid purple dress. As she crouched to greet a child, the fabric shifted. A brief clip of that moment was seized upon, slowed down, magnified, and labeled the ultimate proof. The supposed moment her belly caved in, confirming, they insisted, that it was all fake. But in reality, it was simply soft material bunching up as she moved, exactly as it would on any pregnant woman. Despite that obvious explanation, the video was replayed millions of times. The more people shared it, the more they convinced themselves they had cracked the case. The hysterectomy rumor only added more fuel, making it all seem interconnected. The supposedly shifting belly, the carefully timed announcements, and Meghan's reputation for controlling her public image. But if you take a closer look at what can be verified, the entire narrative starts to crumble. Archie's official birth certificate is available for anyone to see. Clearly documents that Meghan gave birth to her son on May 6, 2019, at a London hospital. Lilibet's birth certificate also exists in public records, confirming she was born on June 4, 2021, in California. No credible doctors, no palace staff, and no respected journalists have produced any evidence challenging these records. When established outlets like Reuters conducted thorough investigations, their conclusions were unequivocal. The rumors had no basis in fact. One fact check bluntly declared, There is no evidence that Meghan Markle faked her pregnancy. But by the time those clarifications came out, the damage had already been done. Because in today's digital culture, scandal spreads much faster than any correction. Conspiracy theories morphed and multiplied every time Harry and Meghan shared glimpses of their private life. When the couple waited a couple of days after Archie's birth to present him to the world, critics seized on the delay as proof something was being concealed. Never mind that plenty of new parents prefer privacy and time to recover before stepping into the spotlight. In the eyes of the most vocal detractors, every choice Meghan made was another clue pointing to deceit. Then came the now famous baby mama dance video. Intended to be a candid, joyful moment, it showed Meghan dancing in a hospital room, visibly pregnant with Lilibet and laughing as Harry joined in. For most viewers, it was endearing, a light-hearted memory of an important day. But for conspiracy theorists, it was like waving a red flag. They dissected every frame, claiming it was proof she was faking labor altogether. You could almost hear the collective gasp online as the clip spread. Who behaves like that if they're really in labor? They demanded. But experts familiar with childbirth pointed out the obvious. The footage was filmed during early labor while waiting for things to progress. Any mother who has gone overdue knows you'll do whatever it takes to keep your spirits up, including dancing. Even so, the video was cropped, re-edited, and reposted as supposed evidence of a fraud. Even with birth records, medical professionals, and first-hand witnesses confirming the facts, these theories wouldn't go away. Part of the reason is simple. They tap into a deeper narrative about Meghan as a performer who carefully scripts every moment. Her harshest critics insisted she would go to any length to maintain her narrative, even if it meant staging her own pregnancies. And it wasn't just anonymous trolls fueling the chatter. Certain tabloids couldn't resist hinting at lingering mysteries and unresolved contradictions, even when the so-called contradictions were just ordinary details, like a dress folding or a photo taken at an unflattering angle. Each was twisted into a breadcrumb in a sinister plot. When Meghan eventually shared her very real struggles, including her experience with a dangerous postpartum condition called preeclampsia, skeptics barely blinked. She described in detail how frightening it was to be monitored by doctors, how high her blood pressure soared, and how she worried for her baby's health. She had never been pregnant. Why admit to a complication that only happens in actual pregnancies? But none of that softened the critics. They simply folded her vulnerability into their storyline, painting her openness as yet another calculated bid for public sympathy. Even her heartbreaking miscarriage, which she revealed in the hope of helping other families feel less alone, was coldly dismissed by some as a ploy. That's the reality of life under an unrelenting spotlight. Your pain becomes entertainment for people eager to see you fall. And through all of this, Trevor Engelson himself has stayed almost completely silent. He's never stood in front of cameras to confirm the hysterectomy rumor. He hasn't written a blockbuster tell-all. He's never shown up on morning talk shows to corroborate any of these outlandish theories. Time and again, when asked, he's simply declined to engage. That alone says something most people overlook. The man at the center of these claims has no interest in feeding the fire. Still, the idea of Meghan as a cunning manipulator remains irresistible to some. It's the same storyline that has driven countless headlines, an ambitious actress who upended an ancient monarchy. And it's the same storyline that keeps audiences clicking, sharing, and speculating long after the facts have been established. So what are we left with at the end of this saga? On one hand, there are official records, documented timelines, and medical realities proving Meghan carried her children. On the other, there's a mountain of gossip, conspiracy videos, and digital hearsay with no credible foundation. But in a world hooked on viral drama, the loudest story often drowns out the truth. As you consider all this, ask yourself why we're so drawn to the darkest possible interpretation. Why do we need to believe in a hidden scandal that could topple the fairy tale? Maybe it's because sensationalism is more exciting than reality. Or maybe it's because sometimes it's easier to assume the worst than to accept that life is just ordinary. Ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide where we stand. But before you click on the next headline promising shocking revelations, remember, Every view and every share is part of what turns rumor into a global spectacle. So next time you see a claim too wild to be true, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, is this really evidence or just another story that's simply too tempting to question? But let's not forget, this isn't the first time a royal woman has been at the center of a media firestorm. Decades earlier, Princess Diana faced her own avalanche of rumor and conjecture. Everything from her marriage troubles to her parenting style was dissected in relentless detail. The same public appetite for scandal that followed Diana has only grown more ravenous in the internet era, where speculation can spread globally in seconds. Meghan's story is, in some ways, a modern echo of that cycle, proof that we haven't learned as much as we'd like to believe about respecting personal boundaries. And while Meghan's critics love to position themselves as the guardians of the truth, the reality is, many of these conspiracy theories depend on twisting the ordinary into something sinister. A late announcement becomes proof of a cover-up. A change in clothing is seen as evidence of a ruse. Even a simple smile gets repackaged as a calculated manipulation. When every detail is interpreted through a lens of suspicion, no one can ever appear genuine. Part of the reason these stories are so sticky is because they play into our fascination with royalty as both fantasy and cautionary tale. On the one hand, we want to believe in fairy tale endings, a prince, a wedding, a happily ever after. On the other, we seem to relish watching that fairy tale fracture under the weight of real human flaws. It's as though we need to see royals fail, so we can feel better about our own ordinary lives. Yet if you step back and look past the headlines, the most surprising thing isn't that Meghan and Harry have faced so much scrutiny, it's that so many people have felt personally invested in tearing them down. These are two individuals navigating marriage, parenthood, and unprecedented public pressure, and yet every choice they make becomes a lightning rod for outrage. Whether it's a podcast episode, a lawsuit, or a charitable project, someone is always ready to claim it's all part of a master plan to control the narrative. You could argue that Meghan's background as an actress made her an easy target. The idea that she's always performing, always in character, gives critics a simple framework to explain anything she does. But in reality, authenticity and performance aren't mutually exclusive. Just because she knows how to handle a camera doesn't mean her experiences as a mother weren't real. This nuance often gets lost when the loudest voices insist everything is a scripted production. It's also worth acknowledging that, for many people, these rumors fill a void. They give a sense of belonging to communities built around decoding supposed secrets. There's a thrill in thinking you're part of a group that has uncovered the real story. But that thrill can quickly turn toxic, as gossip hardens into certainty and empathy evaporates in the rush to expose perceived hypocrisy. And when you think about it, this cycle of rumor, judgment, and outrage isn't unique to Meghan. We see it play out every day, from celebrity breakups to viral courtroom dramas. But there's something especially potent about royal controversies. Maybe it's because they blend glamour with tradition, privilege with vulnerability. The stakes feel higher, and so does the temptation to believe there must be more going on behind the scenes. In the end, though, no amount of speculation changes the basic facts. Meghan and Harry's children were born in hospitals, under the care of medical professionals. Their births were documented and registered. No hidden surrogates ever came forward. No concrete evidence has ever emerged to support the idea of a hoax. That sounds dull compared to the headline-grabbing theories. That's because real life often is. Till for some, the myth will always be more satisfying than reality. It offers a sense of certainty in a world where so much feels out of our control. And it gives an easy villain to blame for the disappointment that fairy tales rarely deliver the perfection we expect. But it's worth asking, what do we lose when we choose the comforting fiction over the boring truth? Maybe the real lesson here isn't about Meghan at all. Maybe it's about us, the readers, the viewers, the clickers. We're the ones who feed the machine by sharing unverified claims, by rewarding outrage with attention, by refusing to let go of a story even when it's been debunked. And as long as we keep clicking, the cycle will keep turning. So the next time you see a headline promising secret confessions or hidden evidence, take a moment to consider whose interests that story serves. Does it bring you closer to the truth, or just deeper into a maze of speculation? Does it help you understand the world or just keep you entertained with someone else's pain? Because in the end, the power to break that cycle doesn't belong to Meghan's critics or her supporters. It belongs to each of us every time we decide whether to believe, to share, or to question. And that choice, more than any rumor, is what shapes the stories that endure.